Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf. CHULLIN Kuf Lamed Vav, we're on the top line, Maaser. Okay, a quick refresher, we're discussing the Shita of Rabbi Eloi. You see, all agree, even the Chachamim agree, that when there is a partnership with a guy on these sheep, they are exempt from the mitzvah of Reishis HaGeiz, which is the mitzvah to provide a portion of that first shearing of wool to the kohen. It's exempt. Shutfus akum is potter. What if it's a shutfus, a partnership with a Jew? According to Chachamim, you're chayiv in Reishis HaGeiz. However, Rabbi Eloi says, just like a shutfus with a goy exempt, likewise a shutfus with a yid. However, the Gemara comes out that that's limited to Reishis HaGeiz. But when it comes to Truma, when it comes to all kinds of other mitzvahs, in those cases, even if it's a partnership with another yid, even Rabbi Eloi would agree that you're chayiv in those respective obligations. For instance, maaser on the top line. In terms of separating the maaser from the crop, even though the pasuk seems to allude that it has to be completely owned by one person. Masar deganecha, it's yours. Dilach in, only yours, exclusively yours. The shutfus, as opposed to a partnership, I would think, comes the pasuk back and says no. Kosav rachmana masrei seichem. Pasuk comes back and clarifies and confirms, even if it's plural, jointly owned, it's chayiv. No, ela masar deganecha l'mayasa. So what's masar deganecha? With that singular connotation, what's that all about? To exempt a partnership with a guy. Next item on the list, matanos. That's the Israel, Chayayim, etc. Once again, after the Kasar Rachman of son, although the pasuk relates the term v'nasan to giving away these vehicle and meimar, based on that we can suggest a comparison, a comparative matchup to Reishis HaGeiz, where it also says Nesina. There would be room for a notion to connect the two, connect Matanis Reishis HaGeiz, and exempt even a partnership with a Yid. Why? Malahalon the Shutfus Loi, just like by Reishis HaGeiz, according to Rabbi Loi. Shutfus with a Yid is exempt. Afkan, here as well by Matanis, the Shutfus life is jointly owned. You're potter from matanos, I would think. Pasuk Rachmana comes the pasuk and clarifies. No, meis zoy v'chei hazevach, that's plural. Even if it's jointly owned, you're chayiv. No, ella taima de Pasuk Rachmana, meis zoy v'chei hazevach. So clearly, it's only due to this new pasuk. Halam hachi, but otherwise, if not for this new pasuk, havamina, I would think leiluf Reishis HaGeiz. I compare it to Reishis HaGeiz and exempt the Jewish partnership. Yeah, that's what I would think. Other rabbi, just the opposite. Neilef mitruma. I can just as well compare matanos to truma by way of this gzeira shava. In both contexts, it says nesina, and just like by truma, we've already established earlier, right? Truma seichem, that even if it's jointly owned, you're chayiv truma. The same with matanos. Why would I think otherwise? You're right. In Echanami, you're right. There's no room to think that matanos is exempt if it's a partnership. Okay, so then. So what's that pasuk coming for? If it's already obvious that normally, look at the Rava. As per Rava, which we learned the other day, to teach us who is the obligated party. The tabach, the butcher, even though it's not his animal, but since he's tending to it, he has to look after the delivery of the matanis. He has to ensure compliance. Next item on the list is bikurim, right? The first fruits that are brought to Eretz Yisrael, given to the kohen. Even though it says it in a singular fashion, which would imply the dach only if it's completely owned by you, but the shutfus slave is a jointly owned property. There's no chiv of bikurim, I would think. Kas rachmana bikurei kol asher ba'artzecha, ba'artzam, right? Ba'artzam, it's plural, to include even a partnership. No, ela artzecha lamli. So why artzecha? which denotes singular. L'mut chutz la'aretz. to exclude any land outside the exclusive land of the Jewish people, meaning only Eretz Yisrael is chayv in bikurim. Next item is tzitzis. Even though it says ksuscha, which sounds like it has to be completely owned by one person. The dachin, the shutfas, if it's a partner, loy. Kasr rachmana al kafe b'gdeim, there is some, which is plural, to cover even a partnership. So why then is ksuscha coming to tell you that it has to be yours? Look at the Rabbi Yehuda. As per Rabbi Yehuda's halacha, Rabbi Yehuda has to be owned as opposed to borrowed, but it could be owned by a joint partnership. Talis shula, if it's a borrowed garment, P'tur minat tzitzis, it's exempt from tzitzis. So minat Torah, it's exempt forever because of kesuscha. Now, midrabanan, it's only exempt for the first 30 days, where it's apparent that it's borrowed. But past that point, it gives the impression that it's really yours. So midrabanan, to avoid confusion, you chayiv and tzitz. But conceptually, tzitzis only applies to something which you own. Kol shleishim yayim, it's potter. Okay. Next item is a ma'akeh, a railing around the roof. Which sounds like it has to be completely owned by one person. Lashon yachid. Didach, if it's yours, completely yours, then yes. Obligation, but to shuttas life, it's jointly owned, your potter. I would think so. Kas rachmana comes to pasuk and says no. The focus is on eliminating danger. Lest the person will fall off that roof. And that covers all circumstances, even a shutfas. Ask the Gemara, so what's gagach coming to exclude? Privately owned as opposed to a public building. Lamutu, to exclude batik masiyas, batik madrashas, which are exempt from ma'akeh. Then you would think, if anything, it's a more populated area. If anything, you would have to have more precautions. The Chazon Ish has an interesting insight on the whole. He explains the whole basis for the Chiyuv Ma'akeh. He says, we don't find that the Torah obligates a person to put a ma'akeh around his tree when he goes tree climbing, right? Or he goes mountain climbing off the cliff. So why is it that by a house, specifically a residential dwelling, is where a ma'akeh has to be erected? He says because naturally, Hashem put it within a person to be aware and to be careful, protect himself from danger. It's just a natural instinct. It's just that in a person's own dwelling, person's own territory, he gets sort of callous. He gets used to, the environment, and he isn't necessarily as cognizant as to the dangers inherent. Yeah, when he's mountain climbing, he knows he got to be careful. When he's tree climbing, but on his own porch, on his own roof, it's his own personal domain. It's his familiar area. So that's why the Torah says put a railing dafka there, lest the person inadvertently trip off. But if it's a public area, batin hasiyas, which is not a personal dwelling, it's not a place where you actually live and are accustomed to being there, a person tends to be more aware, more cognizant of his surroundings, and avoids danger. Interesting perspective from the Chazon Ish. Okay, so at this point, we have concluded, according to Rabbi Loi, Reishis Agez, and only Reishis Agez, is exempt when it's a partnership, but other mitzvahs, truma, maser, etc., are chayiv. Amar Rabbi, no, incorrect. Lesnu, lahani klali. I disagree with all these rules, with these formulas, meaning a Jewish partnership, according to Rabbi Loi, is exempt from all these things as well, just like by Reishis Agez. The Sanya, we have a brayso, an animal which is jointly owned, it has the firstborn, it's considered a kadosh, a bachar. For Rabbi Loi, paitra, he exempts it. My taima. Why? To Rabbi Loi, why? Completely owned by one person, as opposed to a partnership. What about that plural pasuk, which we had yesterday? To Kol Yisrael. Any animal which is owned by a single person throughout the nation, that's the plural, throughout the nation, but it has to be singularly owned by the same person, as opposed to a partnership. Amar Chinin Masura, furthermore, I also disagree with this whole approach. No, partnership is exempt in the other things as well. The Sani, Behemis HaShutin, Chayiv Matanos. The Raisa says, jointly owned animals, Chayiv Matanos. Rabbi Loi, guess what? Paiter, he exempts. My time, why? Yolef Nesina Reis HaGeis. In fact, he does connect Matanos Reis HaGeis and Malahalon, just like by the gaze. The Shutfas Loi partnership is exempt, even a Jewish partnership. Avkan the Shutfas Loi, likewise by Matanos, it's exempt if it's owned by two Yidden. And that also proves another point, that a Shutfas Yisrael exempts you from Truma too. Because V'isa Gadaita with Truma Machai, because if you would obligate Truma on a partnership crop, so when it comes to Matanis, you're exempting because you're connected to gaze, Reis HaGeis. Well, connected to Truma, where it's Chayiv by a partnership. Neiluf Nesina with Truma. You can connect Nesina by the Matanis, Nesina to Truma, just like over there, you're Chayiv over here too. What does that tell us? Apparently he exempts by Truma as well. So that confirms that according to Rilo, you're exempt if it's a partnership between two Yidden, whether it's Truma or Sagez, Matanis. End of story. Okay, so at this point we know Shutus with a Goy exempts, but Shutus with a Yid, by Ris Sagez for sure, Rilo exempts. By other mitzvahs, there's a machlekes. Now, according to yesterday's Gemara, at least according to one approach, the basis for Rabbi Loi's exemption by a partnership with a Yid, by Reish HaGeis, is because we have the two parts of that pasuk, right, which begins with Reishas de Gancha, the truma of the crop, and then it says Reishas Geis Tzeincha, the portion of the shearings. We connect the two, just like by Truma, there's an exemption when there is a partnership with a guy. Likewise, by the Reish HaGeis, if there's a partnership with a guy, you're exempt. So according to that approach, Reish HaGeis is connected to Truma to exempt a shuttus with a guy, and then comes the question. If you're connecting the two, connect it all the way. We should take all the elements found by Truma and apply it to Reish HaGeis. And here goes the whole list. Ma Truma ba'aretz in b'chutz la'arslai. If so, just like by Truma, which is only limited to Yisrael and exempt by Chutz La'aretz, of Matanis, perhaps Matanis as well. Reish HaGeis, right? Ba'aretz in, it should be limited to Yisrael, Chutz La'aretz, not outside. Rabbi Yossi ben Arvel, you're right. Right on target, in, correct. Vatani, in fact, we have a brisa. The Kontra B'loi Aimer, the Matanis, the Reish HaGeis, is limited to Yisrael. Einay ganela b'aretz. V'chein haya. Rabbi Lo Yomer. Reishas HaGeis einay ganela b'aretz. So clearly, the Reish HaGeis is limited to Yisrael. Yeah. Interesting. Our Ger says Matanis, but from Rashi it sounds like the Ger says Reish HaGeis. In any case, your question is right on. Yeah. Reish HaGeis is only on Yisrael. My time to rely. Why? I'm a Rava. Because of this connection. Yolaf Nesina Truma. We can connect it either in the pasuk itself or because of the Gzera Shava, right? Ma Truma ba'aretz in b'chutz la'arslai. Just like by Truma, it's limited to Eretz Yisrael. Afers HaGeis ba'aretz in b'chutz la'arslai. Amalei Abaye. Here comes a long list of additional comparisons between Truma and Reish HaGeis. Amalei Abaye. If you're equating gaze to Truma, ma Truma teveles, Reish HaGeis teveles. Perhaps the tevel concept that applies by Truma should apply here as well, which means that prior to separating the Truma, the entire crop is forbidden. It's tevel. Do we say the same by Reish HaGeis? Before you separate the Kohen's portion of shearings, the whole thing is asur? Amalei says no. This is different. Amakra, the pasuk says. It begins by saying Reishas de Gancha, the beginnings of the Truma of the crop, right? And then it says V'reishas Geis Tzeincha. Could have just says V'geis Tzeincha in the beginning. V'reish, the actual word is telling you, look, its status only gets activated. We only reckon with it once he separates the portion to the kohen. But while it's still mixed in, there's no isser in partaking from the rest. Give him the first of your shearings. We only reckon with it once it's been separated. But prior to separation, it doesn't make the whole thing asr. You just have to make sure that ultimately you give him a piece. Next question. Compare gaze to truma in the following manner as well. By truma, a person eats it. When he's unauthorized to do so, he gets misa b'dei shemayim. If it was done b'mezid or b'chaymesh, or if it was done inadvertently, add the extra fifth as he pays back. So after he said gaze, same thing he said gaze. A person inadvertently took the kohen's part. Chayav malav misa v'chaymesh. If he took it purposely, he should get misa. If it was done by mistake, he should add a chaymesh. Is that true? Amakron, no. Umeisu bay. V'yasev alav. Only by truma do these things apply. Alav alav gaze. The added fifth only applies to the truma, not gaze, and the misa is only by truma, v'loy, as opposed to reish gaze. Next equation: ima truma rishon v'shen achareya. Perhaps just like by truma, it's only the first of the three separations. First comes truma gadayla, then ma'aser rishon, ma'aser sheni. Ima truma rishon v'shen achareya. It's followed by the first and the second ma'aseris. Af reish gaze. Perhaps reish gaze is only the first of three portions given to the kohen. Rishon v'shen achareya. It's meant to be one of three steps. Amakro reishis, only the first shearings. He's only entitled to the first portion, and that's it. Next equation. Perhaps just like by truma, you can only take truma from this year's crop. On this year's crop, you can't mix them up. Perhaps reish giz as well. You can't give the kohen from this year's shearings to exempt last year's shearings. Says the Gemara, yeah, you're right, actually. According to Bavli, just like by truma, it's year per year, the same thing where Reish is in, yep. Says the Gemara about Tanya. In fact, we have a brisa. According to Bavli, you can't mix up the years. You can't mix up the seasons. Tanya, we have a brisa, and we're working with the concept of 5, right? The Mishnah says you have to have at least 5 shearings, 5, sheep, to trigger the chiv reish gaze. That's called tzoincha, a grouping of sheep. Vatani, we have a brisa. Suppose he falls short. He only had 2 sheep. Gazas, he shared them. Viniach, and set aside the wool. Gazas viniach. Next year, did the same thing. Shared the same 2 sheep, put aside the wool. Shnayim shleisha shanim. He did it 2-3 years in a row until he accumulated a batch of 5 sharings at least. Ein mitzdarvis, you can't combine them. Even though in sum total you have 5-6 sharings, because ultimately it came from only 2 sheep, which don't trigger, it's not tzayincha, it's not a grouping of sheep. Let's make a diuk. Let's infer, hachamish mitzdarvis. Suppose, ultimately you have 5 sheep who he shared. Suppose, 2 different years, 2 in this year and 3 the next year. Mitzdarvis, you can combine them. Vatani and mitzdarvis. We have another brisa that you can't combine 2 seasons. Depends who's talking. That confirms our theory. Had Rabbi Loi, who says that we compare reish against the truma, year per year, you can't mix the seasons. For Rabbanan don't make that comparison, therefore you can mix the seasons and accumulate the proper amount of shearings. Next question. Ima truma gadol b'chiyav chayev. Let's compare gaze to truma. Just like by truma, the portion of the grain that grew under the hands of a yid, while owned by a Jew, is chayiv. Gadol b'tur potter, the pot that grew under the hands of a guy is potter. After sagez, nami, likewise by sagez. Gadol b'chiyav chayiv, the pot that grew in possession of a yid is chayiv, and b'tur, the pot that grew under the possession of a guy, it should be potter. Is that true? How do we know this is true by truma? The Sanya, by the Brisa, Yisrael shalokach soda b'Surya. A yid purchased a farm in Syria where a guy-owned farm is exempt from truma and maser. He bought it from a guy mid-season. Actually, be a shlich, so if it's prior to having arrived at the third of its growth, so the grain hasn't yet developed, and now the Yisrael took over, it's chayiv in truma and maser, because it's considered to have grown in his possession. But once he walks in there, after it arrived at its third of its growth, what happens now? So it got to that development stage under the hands of a guy, and now the Yisrael took it over and it grew further. Rabbi Kiva machay b'tei sefes. According to Rabbi Kiva, you have to address the Truma Master obligations on the added portion, the pot that grew under the hands of the Yid. They say, no, you're exempt because it was already at a substantial state, already arrived at a third of its growth, which is considered grain, and once that happens, it's over. But clearly all agree that the part that grew under the hands of the guy is potter. Would the same apply to wool? Perhaps that's true, yeah. But now we have a Mishnah which indicates otherwise. A person purchases just the shearings on the guy's animal. He's exempt from Risagez because it's not Tzayin Chav, belongs to a guy, the actual animal. Let's make an inference. Suppose he approaches the guy, he buys up the whole sheep for the shearing, so he buys the sheep, now belongs to a Yid, he's chayiv to give the Risagez, despite the fact that the shearings, the actual wool, grew while still owned by a guy. That's unlike Truma, where we exempt it when it grew under the hands of the guy. Says the Gemara, you're right. Once again, Masnis and Deloy, we turn to Talmud Bavli, Deloy Rabbi Loi, unlike Rabbi Loi, because according to him, we do connect the two halachas. Now, whatever happens by Truma applies to Reish HaGeis. Next question. Ima Truma mina she'enim min Eloi. According to Rabbi Loi, that we compare Geis to Truma, just like by Truma. You can't mix up species and types and varieties of products. Each product gets its own Truma. Av Reish HaGeis, perhaps Reish HaGeis as well. Different variations of sheep, different color. Perhaps you can't mix up the different varieties. How do we know this is true by Truma? Tasani, we have a brisa. You can have different types of figs. They're all figs, but they're slightly different varieties. You can't mix them up regarding Truma. There are two types of figs, different colors, dark ones and light ones. Two types of wheat, reddish, white, you can't do Truma and Maaseh from one and the other. He says like this: according to Bishami, you can't. You could. In this case, where they're so close, it's just a matter of color. It's not really considered a different min. But in concept, if it's really a different variety, you can't mix them up. Will the same apply to Reish HaGeis? Af Reish HaGeis. So perhaps the same would apply to Reish HaGeis. That each type, each variety, each min requires its own Reish HaGeis. Right? Certainly according to the right? So focusing on the Tanakam of this brisa, that all agree, different colors, different types of figs are treated like separate species. The same would happen to different colored sheep. Says the Gemara, once again, you're right. You got it. But now, in fact, we have a Mishnah which supports this point. That according to Rabbi Loi, you can't mix up the different types of sheep. Each one gets its own personal Reish HaGeis. But now we have a Mishnah. But the fellow who purchased, right? Hoyloi beis minim. So the seller had two types. For instance, shchufais, reddish sheep, lavanis, and the lighter colored one, the white ones. Machal shchufais, avaloi lavanis. Reuven sold Shimon the red ones and not the white ones. Who is obligated in Reish HaGeis? Each fellow looks after his own batch. Zenoisen la'atzmai, because each one had a different type. So I got to give from the red ones, you got to give from the white ones. And what's this halacha based on? It's based on the notion that these are two different types. Because otherwise, if they're all one and the same, meaning that there's no halacha that you have to give a separate gaze from each type. So why does the customer have to give at all? The Mishnah clearly says that if the meicher, the seller, holds back some sheep, he has to look after the entire Reish HaGeis for the entire crop, even the part that he sold. The reason why it's not so in this case is because he sold a different type. He kept one type, he sold a different type. So each fellow has to look after his own. Because clearly you can't mix them up. Elimata say for the Ketania. According to your understanding of the Mishnah, that it's based on the variation of types. What about the next part of the same Mishnah? Male and female sheep. It says, Zohar Mavlina Kevis. He sold a male, he kept a female. Once again, Reuven has to look after his batch. The Nekevos, and Shimon has to look after the Zcharim. Zenoisen liatzmoi, Zenoisen liatzmoi. And here, you can't say it's two different variations. Male and female of the same type or the same min. So why does the buyer has to give separately from the seller? Let it all be on the seller's head, who held back some of the sheep of the same type. It's all the same type. Here too, is it because it's two different types? Of course not. Ella, says the more you're right. The halacha in the Mishnah is not based on this fact that it's two different varieties, two different types. That's not the issue here. Certainly, this seller is fully responsible. Whether it's in the first case where he sold the red and kept the white, it's all one big mix, it doesn't matter. You can take Reish Hagez from one type on the other. And certainly when it's male and female, it's really the same type. So the seller is fully obligated. When the Mishnah says take from the Zacharim and take from the Nekevos, it just means to impart some good advice, some good financial advice to the seller. Look, don't lose out. Rashi brings that the lighter sheep are more valuable, their wool is more valuable, the female sheep are more looked after and more dainty, the wool is of higher quality. So you don't have to give away the whole Reish Hagez from the white. You don't have to give it all away from the female. The Mishnah is giving him some advice. Even though you sold all the females, you sold all the males and you kept the females, you don't have to give the entire Reish Hagez to the kohen from the female. Buy back. Go to the buyer and say, sell me back some of the rougher male wool and combine it with some of your female wool and give it to the kohen. Give him a mix. The later give to the kohen some of the softer ones, the female ones that you still have, the tougher ones, the one that you sold. Buy it back and give that to the kohen. Same thing with the first case in the Mishnah, the red and the white. It's not because he sold one type and he kept the other types. Each one has a separate obligation. No. We mix it all up together. Different variations are unrelated. That doesn't affect the... It's all one big club. And you can do from one on the other. It's not like Truma where you have to give from each specific variation. Here you can mix them. But he sold all the white ones and he kept the red ones. So the Mishnah is telling you an eitzah to the seller, look, you're obligated. But you don't have to give away the best. Buy back some of the reddish wool from the buyer and then give the kohen a mix of some red and some white. So according to this understanding of the Mishnah, you clearly could mix up the variations. We don't compare it to Truma. That's going to be a kasha. Because Rabbi Eloi does connect Reish Hagez and applies the same rules of Truma to Reish Hagez. Says the Gemara, you're right, we already said. So, already confirmed earlier that the Mishnah is not going like Rabbi Eloi. Look, Rabbi Eloi already confirmed it's not going like Rabbi Eloi. So what's the kash? One more point, says the Gemara, back to Rabbi Eloi, who compares gaze to Truma. Ima Truma bein Reishis. If so, just like by Truma has to be the Reishis, the first. First means there's a last, there's a Shirayim, there's leftovers. You can't give the entire crop away as Truma. Shishirani Karn, the leftovers are visible. Just like Truma has that rule, perhaps the same by Reish Hagez. You can't just give away the entire crop to the kohen. Reish Hagez, Shashireh, the Shirayim, the leftover, the remnants, have to be Nikar, have to be visible. And yes, right on. Vatna, we have a Mishnah, in fact. Ha'emer kol garni Truma, a person donates its entire granary, deems it Truma, it doesn't work. V'chol yisasi challah, or his entire dough turning into challah, it doesn't work. We can imply from here that it does work by Reish Hagez. There's no such requirement. But call gazai Reishis. I want to give away the entire shearings. Yeah, the verb come and it works. Tani, we have another brayso, but it doesn't work. It must be linked to the machlekes Rabbanan and Rabbi Eloi, whether we compare Reish Hagez to Truma. That confirms our theory. That in fact, according to Rabbanan, you're free to give it away. According to below, you're not, because it's compared to Truma, which has that limitation. So bottom line, according to below, we compare all these, we compare Reish Sagez to Truma and all these halachas. Whereas according to Rabbanon, Reish Sagez is a standalone, independent halacha unrelated to Truma. Okay, what's the bottom line? What do we do nowadays? Amar Nachmar Yitzchak, ha'idna nowadays noig alma. The common practice is kahanit las savi, aligned with the following three elders who ruled regarding three different halachas, unrelated actually. One of them is our topic, Rabbi Loi Reish Sagez. Regarding Reish Sagez, we follow Rabbi Loi, that it's limited to Eretz Yisrael, just like Truma is. The Sanya Rabbi Loi Aymer Reish Sagez and Noeg only applies where? Be'ela be'Eretz Yisrael. That's number one. And Rashi says, V'odin l'matanis. The same with matanis, meaning the Zroy l'chaim v'keva. And the Parshim explain, because both are compared to Truma, Nasina. Interesting. Always remember when I was in Camp Aguda, in the mountains, in the Catskills, Rabbi Yisrael Belskatzal did his very popular demonstration, his CHULLIN demonstration on a young, I think it was a sheep. He dissected it, demonstrated all the different limbs and the halachas of tarfus. Fascinating. And at a certain point in the show, there was a fellow from the back who called out, Rabbi, what happens to this royal chayam v'keva? You going to give it to a kayan? Rabelski responds with Lashon Gemara, verbatim. He says, "Hidna nog alma k'tla sabi k'rabiloi v'sagez," meaning that sagez and also the matanos, we don't do it nowadays in chutz la'aretz. That was the end of that. Okay, so that's halacha number one. Number two, regarding a balkari, a person who's tummy through keri, is he allowed to learn prior to immersion? Go to Reader Meser, you could. The Sani Reader Meser Aimer. And the return Mekabel Tumah. The return are not susceptible to Tumah. A person, even if he's in an impure state, he can learn Torah. Regarding what defines Kilayim, Kalaya Kerem, we follow Rabbi Yashu's approach. That's a very intricate process. Otherwise, it doesn't qualify as Kilayim the Sanya. Rabbi Yashu Aimer, he's only chayiv liable for Kalaya Kerem, unless he mixes a wheat kernel, barley kernel, and a grape seed. Matilisiyad in one sort of a hand plant, right? Meaning one plant in one spot, all three together. That's considered kilei hakerem. Otherwise, he's not liable. Okay, Chaim Bezraya. The Mishnah embarks on a comparative presentation. Let's match up Reish Sagez, our parak, to the previous parak of Zroya l'chayam v'keva. There's a stringency in Zroya v'chulu. Ask the Gemara, listening, why doesn't the Mishnah also cite a stringency, a chaymer, Reish Sagez, over matanis, which is shenaig b'treifes. Mashayim matanis. Matanis don't apply to a treifa animal. Pasuk says, give it to the kayin, titin, that he should enjoy it, not for his dog. So an animal which is a treifa, has an internal wound which is forbidden for consumption, is exempt from matanis. But Reish Sagez applies even to that type of animal, so you have an advantage. Amar Rabina, it does not. Hamani Rab Shimoni, we're going to Rab Shimon, the Sani Rab Shimon Poiter. As a treifa is, Reish Sagez, he says Reish Sagez doesn't apply to a treifa. Why? My time Rab Shimon, what's he based on? Yolav Nesinis in matanis. It says Nasan Badia. Reish Sagez, same thing by the matanis. We compare the two. Ma matanis treifa, just like a treifa is exempt from matanis, from the Israel, etc. Af Reish Sagez, Nami treifa, likewise a treifa is exempt from Reish Sagez. Ask the Gemara. Okay, so once we're comparing the Olav Nesin matanis, we're comparing gaze to matanis. Leila Nesin Matruma. Why don't we compare Reish Sagez to Truma through the Gzeir Shav and Nesina and say, like Rabbi Loya a minute ago, Ma Truma Ba'aretz in Mechutz La'aretz, just like Truma is limited to Eretz Yisrael, to it's a Yisrael grown crop. Af Reish Sagez, not like Reish Sagez is only Ba'aretz in applies in Eretz Yisrael, but not Mechutz La'aretz. Alamatanan. So why does our Mishnah clearly state otherwise? That the consensus opinion is Reishis Hageiz, Noig B'Eretz, and U'chas L'Eretz. Allah, you're right. Rav Shimon is not based on Nesina and Nesina. So why does he exempt a treifa from gaze? Hainu Taima de Rabbi Shimon. Here's Rabbi Shimon's reason. The Olav Tzoin Tzoin, a different type of Xer. He connects Tzoin Tzoin. It says Tzoin here, it says Tzoin by Maser Behema, where you give the 10th animal, right? Maser. Maser treifa, just like treifa is exempt from Maser Behema, obligations. Aver Zagez, treifa loy. Same thing with Reish Zagez. How do we know a treifa is exempt from Maser Behema? The pasuk says the animal that can walk under that stick. As opposed to a treifa, which at times can't even walk, it's missing the hind leg. So we compare all treifas to this type of treifa, which is exempt from Maser Behema. Ask the Gemara. Okay, so you have Reish Hageiz in the middle of the equation. On the one side you have Maser Behema, Tzoin, to exempt. You know what? We can say Tzoin in a different direction. Connect Reish Hageiz to Bechor, where even a treifa is chayev. A firstborn happens to be a treifa, it's Kadosh. V'leilif Tzoin to Bechor. And say, Ma Bechor, just like with Bechor, it covers even a treifa, Reish Hageiz, treifa also has Reish Hageiz. Why do you prefer connecting it to Maser Behema over Bechor? Says the Gemara, it makes more sense to compare Reish Hageiz to Maser Behema. Why? Mistaber. It makes more sense. There are 7 comparative elements between the two. To learn from Maser over Bechor. Number 1, Shkein Schar. Both are not limited to the male variety, as opposed to Bechor, which is limited to a male. Tamein. Both, meaning Reish Hageiz and Maser Behema, don't apply to unkosher animals. Bechor does, right? Firstborn donkey. Number 3, B'merubin. Both only apply to a grouping of animals, as opposed to Bechor, which is even single, right? One animal born. Me'rechem. They're both not designated from birth. Maser Behema has to be done later. Reish Hageiz upon shearing, as opposed to Bechor, which is from birth, from the womb. Number 5, Adam. Both don't apply to people, as opposed to Bechor, which has a human element to it also, a firstborn person. Parshanut, they're both plain, as opposed to firstborns. Fnei Adibur, both didn't apply before Torah was given, as opposed to Bechor, who there was Kedusha even before Matan Torah. So because of these 7 comparisons, we compare Reish Hageiz to Maser Behema as opposed to Bechor. Adarabba, it's the opposite. There are more comparative elements between us and Bechor. We should learn from Bechor. Shekain, number 1, Yasaim. Gaze and Bechor apply even by Yasim, animals mother died upon birth, as opposed to Maser Behema, it's exempt. In that case, Shalachai, both apply by purchased animals, as opposed to Maser Behema, which is exempt by a purchased animal. V'shotfis, both apply to a partnership, jointly owned animals, as opposed to Maser Behema, which doesn't. Nisanai, they both apply to animals that were gifted to you, as opposed to Maser Behema, where it doesn't. B'fnei, they both apply whether there is or isn't a Beis HaMikdash, as opposed to Maser, which is only when there's a Beis HaMikdash. Kayin, Reish Hageiz and Bechor are given to a Kohen, as opposed to Maser Behema, which is the owners. Kedusha, next page. Bechor need not be sanctified, it's naturally sanctified, and Reish Hageiz has no Kedusha at all, as opposed to Maser Behema, which has to be sanctified, it's a different process. Umechira, finally we have Mechira, which is the Isser to sell. Maser Behema cannot be sold. Bechor, the Kohen can sell. Reish Hageiz can sell. Vanach Nefishin, and these 8 comparative elements are more numerous than the 7 previous ones. So why don't we compare Reish Hageiz to Bechor and obligate a treifa animal as well? Answer is Pashat mi Pashat Adiflay. The fact is, Reish Hageiz is more similar to Maser Behema. They're both plain. They're not firstborns. As opposed to Bechor, which is the firstborn, a totally different entity. And therefore, we prefer this direction over that. And just like by Maser Behema, treifa is exempt. The same with Reish Hageiz. Okay, all the best to you, and much hatzlacha.